right, let's focus now on international news, and it seems the war in Ukraine could be in for the long haul. Russia has conducted nuclear-capable tests in Kaliningrad near the Polish and Lithuanian borders. Russia says Western aid to Kyiv has slowed its offensive in Ukraine, but it still remains certain of victory. Let's discuss this now with our correspondent, William Denzilo, who joins us live from Riga in Latvia. Thank you so much for joining us, Will. This issue around Mariupol, the Azovstal steel plant, where many civilians have been sheltering for some weeks. We know that yesterday a few hundred were left, they were able to leave. What is the situation now? Has bombing been confirmed on that plant?
Well, Sally, exactly. Just to provide a quick update on the last 24 hours or so. Well, what we heard from Moscow is that Russian forces, as well as the Donetsk People's Republic troops, had agreed to a cessation of its hostilities, so essentially saying that they were allowing a humanitarian corridor out of the Azovstal steelworks plant for 3 days, from between the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. local time in Moscow. Now, despite that, we heard reports throughout the day from Ukrainian forces on the ground saying that there were bloody battles going on, as they put it. They said that Russia had broken the terms of its truce and it wasn't possible to get those civilians out of this plant despite them being besieged for weeks. We have, though, heard a quick update. We've heard from Vladimir Putin, Russia's president, in a phone conversation with Naftali Bennett, the Israeli Prime Minister. He says that he will approve safe passage for those civilians. He did, however, call for Kyiv to tell their soldiers, there, according to some reports, a few thousand of them still in the steel plants, to put down their weapons. We know now that Martin Griffiths, who's the chief humanitarian officer at the United Nations, he says another convoy is heading to Azovstal. He says it'll be there by tomorrow, so there is a huge hope, as far as the UN is concerned, that civilians will be allowed to start leaving then.
Such a tense and difficult situation. Also news of these missile tests in Kaliningrad. What is the significance of this, bearing in mind that over recent weeks we've heard from various Russian officials either saying directly that this, that nuclear war is not completely off the table, but then sort of pulling it back. It's been quite a difficult, murky communication. So what is the significance of these tests?
Well, first of all, you're absolutely right to mention the location, because that is, of course, in of itself significant. You mentioned that it's sandwiched between Poland and Lithuania. It's on the Baltic coast. It's around 250 miles or so from where I'm speaking to you from here in Riga, Latvia. So, of course, the proximity being so close to NATO members and the east coast of Europe is of huge significance. And you mentioned the recent statements we heard from Sergei Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister, recently, who said that there is a real and dangerous threat that the conflict could escalate into World War III and the possibility of nuclear weapons as well. Of course, he's very much pointed the finger of blame at the West, saying that they need to stop with the sanctions if they want peace talks to progress at a greater pace. He also said that it's vital that Ukraine's allies stop supporting Kyiv with weaponry as well. So strong rhetoric there coming from Moscow. And of course, what we're seeing with these military drills is they're not afraid to show off some of their to flex their military muscles as well.
Speaking of sanctions, we know that the EU is imposing very tough sanctions on oil to sort of phase out all Russian oil in the next few months. The Kremlin blaming the United States for prolonging the war. What is their rationale?
Yeah, that's the message from Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesperson, saying that it's Western intelligence as well as their weaponry that's prolonging the objectives for Russia, this special military operation that they call it, from being achieved. This, of course, comes as Vladimir Putin, Russia's president, has said that more sanctions, more tit-for-tat sanctions are in the works on the West. And really, it's that reiterated message that it's the West that are supplying Kiev with weaponry, and that is really creating instability as far as Russia is concerned. Russia has said time and time again that their security is a paramount issue for them. They want to see those security issues eased before this operation can come to an end. Of course, that is flatly rejected by Kiev as well as its allies in the West as well. This, of course, all comes ahead of May 9th, Victory Day in Russia, which is a hugely significant period in the Russian calendar. It marks back in 1945 when the Soviets declared victory over the Nazis, so there's plenty of speculation as to whether Russia will try and seek either to announce an escalation in the war by that date, or at least some military victories on the ground by then. Of course, Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesperson, has said that any kind of deadline to that effect is nonsense.
Yes, and of course, though, we do know that Vladimir Putin has said things and then gone ahead and done the opposite. One of them, I think, was that they were not prepared to invade Ukraine. So I guess we have to wait and see what happened. Thank you very much. That's our correspondent, William Denzilo, joining us from Riga in Latvia.